Hello, everyone. Today, we have the absolute pleasure and privilege of being joined by Darrell W, who is the Managing Director of Gunter Media Group. Darrell, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. But people might know I prefer to be called Darrell. So,
Apologies. Darrell, in that case, apologies. Happy to restart.
okay, that's good.
Yeah,
Yep.
apologies about that. Darrell, that's how it's pronounced.
Mhm.
Darrell. Got it. Cool. Hello, everyone. Today, we have the absolute pleasure and privilege of being joined by Darrell Gunter, who is the Managing Director of Gunter Media Group. Darrell, how are you doing today?
Fabulous. Fabulous. Doing well. And how are you doing today, Harris?
I'm doing very, very well. Thank you for asking. The sun is out, emails to get through, so, couldn't be any happier. How about your end?
Absolutely. We have a beautiful day here outside of Philadelphia and looking forward to a beautiful summer.
Absolutely. Can't wait. Well, without further ado, let's make a start. So, Gerald, could you please take us right to the very beginning, right, where the whole journey started from early stages of your career, and perhaps telling us a little bit about the journey, the ups and downs, and how you got to the position you're in today?
Absolutely. Actually, my journey started in a corner grocery store in Atlantic City, New Jersey called Gunter's Market. Youngest of seven, we had a family corner store in Atlantic City, New Jersey, and I started working in the grocery store at the age of 4. My mother actually gave me a route, something called a TV guide. I mean, everything's digital now, but this was back in the day where you had a weekly TV guide about what's coming on TV. And she actually I had a customer route of 4 customers. And I think, truth be told, she asked those customers to allow me to deliver it to them so she could teach me that. But it actually started my career in business marketing and information because from there I helped my brothers on their paper routes, and then I had my own paper route with the Philadelphia Bulletin, which was an evening newspaper. It's been long been defunct, but that taught me how to manage my own paper route at the age of 9 and, customer service and all of that. And that continued on through high school as I worked for McDonald's. I was a crew chief manager my junior, senior year. Meanwhile, still working the grocery store. I worked the grocery store until I graduated college from Seton Hall, came out of Seton Hall, started working for Xerox, selling copiers for 2 years, and then was recruited over to Dow Jones Financial News Services, which had the Dow Jones Broad Tape, the Dow Jones Foreign Exchange Wire, Capital Markets Report, et cetera, et cetera. There at Dow Jones over a 13-year period, I moved from New York to LA as an account manager and then promoted to be a regional sales manager in Chicago, first with 19 states and then in 39 states and 7 people. And then I became the national sales director and moved back to New York. So I went from New York, LA, Chicago, back to New York. After a great 13-year career, I was recruited over to Elsevier, which is the world's largest scholarly publisher. They needed to hire the first managing director of the Americas. That's the position I interviewed for, and I was hired. And I built that organization from 0 up to 130 FTEs and took the business from being totally print, which was 285 million, converted to be a 385 million dollar business, also subscribed 5-year agreements, et cetera, et cetera. Built a great team. And my team, the Americas region, one of 4 for Elsevier, which is part of Relics, which used to be called Reed Elsevier. We were number one 11 straight years in sales and profitability. So from there, I was recruited over to be the EVP, Chief Marketing Officer, for an AI startup called Calexis. That was back in 2007. And there I was intrigued by the technology. So I left Elsevier, went to the startup. And then, of course, one of my objectives was to get the company to be acquired by Elsevier, hopefully within 3 years. And I started there April 1st of 2007, and Elsevier acquired Calexis June 10th of 2010. We achieved that. I did a short stint for the American Institute of Physics as their chief commercial officer, and then decided to start Gunter Media Group, August of 2011. And from there, I'm also an operating partner for Triartisan Capital, private equity firm. So in Gunter Media Group, we have helped dozens, if not hundreds of companies over the last 15 years to achieve their strategic objectives. We focus on three things. We focus on strategy. Do you have the right strategy? Do you need to enhance your strategy? Do you need to develop a strategy? To meet that strategy, do you have the right product, goods, and services? If you don't have the right product, goods, and services, that's when we get into an ideation phase to look at, what products or businesses or industries you want to be in. And then the third part, after you decided that, is to work on the commercialization process. A lot of folks don't understand a go-to-market strategy is just part of it, but you really got to think about how are you going to promote your product? How are you going to sell your product? How are you going to develop it and how are you going to put in all that good stuff? And that's primarily what we do. And within that, there's a lot of executive coaching. A lot of executive coaching is sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's not intentional. What I mean by not intentional, sometimes helping executives to see beyond their current knowledge base. And a way to do that is to really gently show them where there's gaps in their knowledge base and give them information so that then they can make a higher level decision based upon a higher level of information. And that's a lot of coaching. It's a lot of psychology. It's a lot of helping them to become more self-aware and helping them to self-identify by pointing them in the right direction for them. So we're working on some very exciting things currently and always looking for more exciting things. We have the capacity to take on more clients.
Amazing. Now, what part of your journey, an amazing journey with so much experience and diversity, but what part of that journey do you think you learned the most? What part of that journey do you think your mindset and character kind of elevated to the next level? And what is perhaps something you're really proud of in that journey looking back?
Well, there's a few things. One is that I think all experiences are good experiences. Sometimes, like give you an example, I always do a debrief with myself, understanding if I didn't get a particular piece of business, what was it? What was the reason why? Was it something that I could have done better? Was it the customer's environment? Was it personalities? And to understand those characteristics and put that in my mental notebook so that the next time I come across that, I know that I will respond differently for that. Of course, with the successes is understanding what went right, why did it go right, what are the best practices that occurred there that I want to repeat. There's several clients that I feel very proud about of how I helped them. There's a company in Japan called eDance. Back in 2011, one of my very first clients, they wanted to build a semantic AI application and they did not have the expertise to do it. And as soon as I posted on LinkedIn that Gunter Media Group is open for business, the owner, Kerry Grants, he called me and said, "Hey, I'm gonna be in from Japan and Chicago. Can you come out for the weekend?" And that was Labor Day weekend. So I actually was with him for 3 days talking about his project. But it turned out very successful. We built the application within 4 months' time, delivered it. And when he sold the company back in 2018, 2009, he sent me a nice letter saying, it's because of the work that you did on the journal selector that allowed us to grow the company and sell the company. So that's a great success story. Another one is Semantico out of the UK. They had hired me to help them to turn around their business and get them positioned to be sold. And the strategy we implemented worked out well, and they were acquired. And now Richard Padley, he's in the hotel business now. He bought a hotel in Italy that he's doing. And then, of course, there's the individuals that I have coached that are doing quite well, and they give me very nice compliments on LinkedIn to say that how I help them. So it's a very rewarding business.
Amazing. And Darrell, at the minute, right, are you very much focused in terms of business? Are you focused on growth and growing to the next level? Are you at a level where you're kind of maintaining things and focusing on that, customer satisfaction and delivery? Are you very much mixed in with the team? What does a typical day look like for yourself? At the business?
So I was on an interview the other day on Saturday for another podcast, and I used the phrase, I'm a business mechanic. I'm a business mechanic because I'm not limited to one area or one thing. I work with complete startups. I work with startups who have gotten to 0 to 1. Now they want to go 1 to 2. I have worked with mid-sized companies. I've worked with billion-dollar companies. And I would say that I work with trying to first understand what is the problem that they have. How can I help them? And it's one thing that I don't do. If there's somebody I feel like I cannot help, I will refer them to another colleague who I feel can help them. But it's very broad and very specific what I do. I channel in on what is the problem that needs to be solved.
Amazing. Now, if we can come on to the next topic, which is market trends, right? The market shifts in the industry. What are some, changes within the industry have you noticed in the last few years? What kind of change or period do you feel like we're in now, and how do you think that's going to pan over in the next 6 months, 12 months, and even 3 to 5 years coming? How do you think business owners can adapt to these changes that keep on happening? And what are some pitfalls that potentially people need to be mindful of so they don't catch themselves out?
Well, it's interesting. AI is, of course, that's the buzzword du jour, right? But AI has been around since the late 40s, early 50s, and it's been developing, developing, and developing. And ChatGPT has really gotten people to see all of these broad range possibilities. But here's the situation. Here's the challenge to all business people, all businesses. They have to change their mindset. They need to understand this technology and all that it can do and not rest on their laurels simply because new competitors are coming in. These younger folks, hey, they're sopping it up, they're understanding it, and they're able to really bridge that knowledge gap very, very quickly. I think businesses have really got to understand where they are and be honest with themselves where they are in leveraging the different forms of AI as to how it can help their business, and begin to educate themselves and work towards putting those tools within their business. Because I can tell you, this is 2025. 2026 is going to look completely different, in my humble opinion. I published a book in 2021 titled Transforming Scholarly Research with Blockchain Technologies and AI. And the book sales it was okay. All right. ChatGPT comes out, then the book sales take off. And it's because business people, we get complacent with what we're doing. We have our manufacturing plants where we're turning the crank, and we just want to continue to turn the crank. But meanwhile, someone has introduced a new widget that is different from our crank, and if we don't embrace that, our crank is going to be put out of business. One of the things that I like to say, I haven't seen any ice trucks driving around or trucks with coal driving around. Why? Because people have refrigerators in their home. They make their own ice cubes. And of course, we have energy that comes through gas and comes through oil, so you don't have the old trucks driving around anymore. As I say, from a digital perspective, I don't know if you're young enough to remember a SkyTel pager. Yeah, before cell phones. You remember those doctors have those pagers?
Yeah, that you.
Okay. Well, SkyTel was a business where you would have a SkyTel pager. Like, give you an example, when I was the national sales director for Dow Jones, this was 93, I had a SkyTel pager. So if my boss or any customer needed to reach me, I would get a page, and then I would go to a telephone booth and make a phone call because I was traveling.
I think
So
my father would definitely remember that.
absolutely.
Yeah.
So, it's putting things in perspective that there's going to be change. Um, and we have to embrace it, but also we do need to challenge change. We need to be adversarial. And I'm quoting a client of mine, Maxwell Rigsby Jr. of Gadget Software. They have a great product called Topic Lake Insights. That is a metadata farm. It creates metadata of data, which is phenomenal. But Max would say that, you really got to be adversarial to AI just to make sure that the information is correct. Because we've seen that with ChatGPT. It's getting better, but you can't take it for gospel truth.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Very well said. Now, Joe, another trend I wanted to get your thoughts on. Obviously, this trend has blown up perhaps even before AI, is social media, right? The power of social media, the capabilities of social media. Perhaps AI is becoming what social media was. But in terms of your view, how important has been social media to your success within business? How can business owners actually utilize the power of social media in the right way? And again, what are some pitfalls to perhaps avoid which can get themselves caught out? What is your overall perspective on social media as a
Yeah.
whole?
Yeah. You know, in 2007, when I left Elsevier and went to Collexes as the EVP CMO, social media was a godsend. We were a small startup. We did not have a large marketing budget. Doing press releases were very expensive for us. So what I was able to do with social media at the time, 2007, almost 20 years ago, was to buy the cheapest press release, because press release, the prices at the time was based upon the areas that you wanted to send it out to. So what I would do, I would buy the cheapest one, but then I would email a link to the press release to all of the key people that I wanted to make sure that they got it. So that helped me tremendously. Social media is a tool. It's like a hammer. It's like any tool. You really got to understand what is your marketing mix. You need to understand how you're going to use it, and you need to establish some performance metrics. And also is to understand, what is your competition doing? How are they using it? And quite frankly, copy what they're doing, because it's the information is there. It's free. It's ethical. For that. Of course, there's the downside of social media, which I don't want to spend any time talking about it, because I think as good business people, we focus on the positive aspects of a technology and ignore all of the nonsense, that's going on. People want to show you what they had for breakfast, and all of that nonsense. But you got to have a marketing mix, and you got to establish performance metrics for that. And if you're not meeting your performance metrics, then you got to look at, oh, is my message crafted as well as it could be? Keep in mind that, short-term video, short form videos, 30 seconds. That's it. Some people are still doing 5-minute short form videos. Now, you have an audience for each of those types, but in trying to capture somebody in the beginning, you got to do a short form video, 5, 10, 15, 30 seconds at the most. So they're good tools. But again, you got to establish, it's not, let me like do a massive social media thing. Marketing hasn't changed. It's like acupuncture. Have you ever had acupuncture?
If I've seen.
Acupuncture, it's all about putting needles in to get the body blood flowing through the body. A good marketing campaign is consistent message, consistent flow. Some people say, oh, I'm gonna buy a Super Bowl ad. Good luck. But if you had a Super Bowl ad followed up with regional and national ads after that, that reinforces that message, because we have so much that is hitting our sensories, that we got to make sure that we have a message for the person who reads, the person who listens, and the person who views.
Amazing, amazing. Now, if we can hold it now, Darrell, on more on the business side of things. So, what are some areas of the business that are perhaps going really well, and you feel like they're going strength to strength? It could be any areas of the business, sales, marketing, operations. And what are some areas perhaps you're perhaps finding some problems, some challenges, and how are you perhaps looking to overcome them? Or perhaps in the past, where have you had some problems, and how have you overcame them?
So, with a LinkedIn audience approaching 20,000 connections, I have a very, very good network that I can reach out to, that I sell to. One of the challenges that I have had over my career is balancing my time between my consulting and then my operating partner responsibilities. Working as an operating partner, you work on deals on a success basis, and it requires you to put in at least 6 months of your time. And so what happens during that time, you're pretty much not working on the consulting, you're working on getting that acquisition. And unfortunately, we were not successful in getting a few great deals across the goal line. And so what I've been doing now is really scrutinizing the deals that I work on, but also making sure that I have a couple consulting assignments along the way, because the rewards of winning a deal are huge, but you got to win it.
Absolutely. Now, a big, obviously, trend is AI. So if we can maybe touch on AI very quickly, is that, if somebody's on the fence with AI, they're kind of like new technology. I know nothing about this, and they're kind of on the fence. Is this here 1 minute, gone the next? What even is AI? If you were speaking to somebody, or they were perhaps sat in this conversation, how would you advise them in regards to AI? How would you perhaps calm their, nerves around AI? What kind of potential do you think they could really achieve with AI? Where can it actually bring value?
Yeah. Well, first of all, people are uncomfortable with what they don't understand. They're uncomfortable with when they don't have particular knowledge. It's like with anything in life. I don't know if you've ever done martial arts.
Some forms, not exactly, but
So if you think about trying to do a flying spinning back kick,
yeah.
it's pretty daunting thing to do. And you got to take it one step at a time. And so, like, give you example. A gentleman just the other day said, "Hey, Darrell, I've been resistant about AI. Where can I start?" And there's so many great free resources out there, whether it's Coursera, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's Google. You got to establish that, hey, this is important for me as a human being. I need to understand this so that while I'm on this earth, I am really involved. If I'm in business, I got to do it to do that. But start with the basics and then and then get past that first thing of not knowing. Because I tell folks, I've been involved with AI since 1993. When I was at Dow Jones Financial News Services, we had a service called the Professional Investor Report. It was simple AI. I mean, it basically looked at stocks that were trading outside of their 52-week norm, and then they would send a reporter out to figure out. But that was 1993, you know, and now, it's really has grown tremendously. So my advice is to really take your time, take a deep breath, you know, play with it, get a group of friends that are trusted colleagues, work together. And next thing you know, you were like, oh yeah, I use this one, I use that one, I use this one. This is one of those participating sports. You can't sit on the sidelines in this world and watch what happens with AI, in my humble opinion.
Absolutely. Now, what does the future look like, Darrell, for yourself? Obviously, you've accomplished so much, right? There's so much experience and expertise on your belt, but what does the future look like? I'm sure you've got the next goal and then the next goal. But if we're talking maybe the next 6 to 12 months and maybe even beyond that, are there some big, big goals in the vision board? Are you now at the point where you are more worried about impact and leaving a legacy and having, made real change in the industry? What do you want to perhaps look back on in the next 20 years, 30 years from now and be like, I've achieved that and I'm proud and I can sort of finally rest? Where do you perhaps sit on that?
Well, I am working on an acquisition as we speak, dealing with blockchain and AI technology. And I have a simple legacy that I want to leave behind, is that I have helped make the world better because I can help researchers get to the answers that they need to help cure diseases. When I was working at Xerox, I learned a lot. It established my foundation, Dow Jones. That gave me a formal business knowledge of working in an information company. But then when I started to work for Elsevier, and Elsevier is the world's largest scientific publisher, it gave me more meaning and more purpose. And then of course Collex is built on that, and I've been building on that, helping publishers to be better, to do better. And now what I'm looking to do is to create this platform, Pubs 21, that will bring all of this information together and allow folks to really do a very high level AI semantic search that can lead them to greater discoveries.
Amazing, amazing. And Darrell, just to, I guess, finish up on, what is the biggest piece of advice you've ever received, or perhaps the biggest lesson you learned in your journey that perhaps you wish you knew? And, someone listening in now probably may hear the advice and it could really change their life or really help them out push through the sort of tough period they're in. How would you see it?
I'll answer it in a couple of ways. One is, how do you eat an elephant? And the answer is bit by bit, bite by bite. And they're small bites. They're not large bites. Baby steps. Baby steps are so important. Baby steps proves your product hypothesis. Baby steps allows you to move to the next level. It's almost like trying to run up the stairs and skip steps. You don't want to do that. Step on every step, understand, and also work with like-minded people who really get the vision, understand it, respect it, and bring their expertise to the forefold.
Amazing, amazing. Well, Darrell, thank you so, so much. I could not thank you enough for the amazing podcast episode. So much value you've shared. I've learned a lot, and I hope you've enjoyed your time in conversation, and perhaps people listening and have really learned a lot and enjoyed. So massive thank you.
No, massive thank you to you, Harris, for reaching out to me and giving me this opportunity.
No, of course, my pleasure. Before we do close up, Darrell, any final comments, or perhaps the audience, your connections, business partners, anyone listening, any final comments you may have?
Connect with me on LinkedIn, Darrell W. Gunter at LinkedIn. And my email is d.gunter@guntermediagroup.com. And I'm on WhatsApp, 973-454-3475. Oh, I forgot the +1, 973-454-3475. And also check out my podcast, Leadership with Darrell W. Gunter. It's on all podcasts across the world. There's 360 shows of interviews with folks doing business. So thank you for allowing me to be on the other side of the microphone.
Of course, I hope you've enjoyed, and perhaps a little break from asking questions and answering them instead. Amazing. Darrell, thank you so much, and thanks to everyone who's tuned in. We'll catch everyone next time. Bye-bye.